All right. Looks like we have a good number of folks coming in, so we are going to get this show on the road. Hello, folks, and welcome back to the Bug Bash. We are excited to have you all join us for another episode of this live series where we tackle real-world challenges and test automation by talking to the folks who live and breathe this stuff every single day. I am your host, Jenna Beckett, and I am happy to be here chatting with you all again today. Whether you are joining us live or you're catching the replay, you're in the right place today if you are ready to unpack Cypress AI. Before we get started, though, and dive into content, got a couple housekeeping things that we need to take care of. So I want to congratulate Alicia Epic, or Alicia Epic, I'm not sure the pronunciation. That username is the winner of our Bug Bash swag this week. We're going to be sending them a little swag package, and you could get one too, simply by joining one of these live sessions or by dropping us a future topic suggestion in the thread in community discussion. Now, today's session, I'm sure everyone wants to just get right into the content of it. And we do have a lot to cover in a short amount of time. So I am going to go ahead and introduce our guest. Joining us today is Emily from the Cypress product team. She is one of the folks leading the charge on AI development here at Cypress and is here to give us some insights on what Cypress has been up to. So Emily, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and do a little bit of an intro for everyone. Let us get to know you, and then we can dive into some questions.
Yeah, sure. You can hear me, right?
We can hear you.
Perfect. Okay, so my name is Emily. I am a product manager on our product team here at Cypress. I've been with the company for about 3.5 years now, so have a little bit of history built up over time. And yeah, I just wanted to join today to kind of have some interaction engagement with the community, learn about what makes you guys excited about AI, as well as share some of the things we currently kind of have done and kind of have coming next. So yeah, great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks, Emily. Okay, so let's go ahead and kick things off. And I'd like to start with, kind of where we're at now. So can you give us a quick overview of the AI-powered features that are currently available from Cypress?
Yes. So as of this point in time, Cypress has released two new features that are available. Our first one is our Cloud AI intent summaries. This is available in the cloud, and what this does is it describes and summarizes what your test was intending to do. Was there more that you wanted to know there, Jenna?
Yeah, I love to hear what it does, but I think probably most interesting for the folks in the audience is what pain points does it solve?
Right. So that's a good question. I guess I kind of skipped right over that. So when you think about going into the cloud and you're reviewing your tests, there's a few things that you're probably looking at when you're going in to kind of get to that point. Oftentimes, you're going in, you're reviewing a test, it's likely because it's failed or flaky. And there are a few things you need to do to get to the point of understanding what is going on. And the very first step is, what is my test doing? So if you recently wrote that test, you probably remember and you don't really maybe need this thing. But oftentimes, there's multiple people on your team contributing to your test, or maybe you wrote it a long time ago, and it's just all right, what's going on here, right? And so this is meant to be a quick way to streamline kind of your experience there of understanding what's going on, so that when you jump in to kind of your debug workflow or just analyzing what's going on, you don't have to first load up all that context and then try to get to the next step. So that's what this is aiming to solve for.
Awesome. And you said that there were a couple of features that were out there. So you talked to us about test intent summaries. What are some of those other currently available features?
The other feature that we have available at this point in time is our UI coverage test generation AI feature. So this is available within UI Coverage, which is a premium solution that you can purchase to help enhance your experience within the cloud. UI Coverage gives you insights into what's been tested and what hasn't when you're looking at it from your application perspective. So it's a little bit different than code coverage, because code coverage is going to tell you what lines of code have maybe been hit, where this is going to say, hey, like we've identified specific views or elements within your application that maybe haven't been covered yet, or hopefully they have been, but maybe haven't. And so when you find those gaps in testing, what it allows you to do is engage with the element or the views that you need to extend coverage for, and it gives you the starting point for adding that test coverage without needing to figure out like what spec does it need to go into, and like what are the steps to get to the point where this element is even visible on the page. So that's what the UI coverage test generation is solving for.
Excellent. And I believe you had mentioned that you are going to show us a little bit of that. Did you want to share your screen and show what that looks like?
Yeah, let me give that a shot. So I have never shared from Discord, so I hope that it is
pretty
seamless.
Zoom-like.
Okay. Oh, let's pick a window. Let's pick the Cypress tab. Okay. So, first one is your test intent. So I described this around coming in and understanding your test. So where you can find this, you would go to your project in the cloud. You'd go to your run like you normally would, and you would either engage from your overview page or your test results page. You'd click in to see your test details. And your test intent will generate here and describe exactly what was intended to happen here and what you were trying to do. So this test is verifying that when a user opens Cypress, there's no additional setup. The welcome page is displayed correctly with the appropriate messaging and configuration status. So that essentially loads up the context that you'd expect. And then from there, you can go into your replay, understand, visually, like what all happened when you kind of went through this workflow. What are you seeing? What are the users seeing if they were the ones actually engaging with this page? And you can kind of see that confirmation. So same thing happens, this was for a past test. You can see it for failed tests as well. And it gets you kind of into that starting point of not needing to read every single line of code or watching the entire replay to kind of know what's going on. So that is your the very first one with the test intents. I feel like a little bit different. Then we get into the test generation. See if I pick the right tab here. So for those that have not seen UI coverage before, you would click here in your UI coverage tab. I've already pre-selected a view that had missing element coverage for this run. So here I can see this retry failures button had not been tested. And so, I should add coverage. So you come in here, you click on your generate your test code. It will tell you what specs were observed, or this element was observed. You can choose which one makes the most sense for you. I'm going to click on this first one. And from here, we are going to go and set you up with the test code necessary to see this become visible within your test. So then from there, you can confirm the behavior, run any other assertions, and continue the workflow necessary to, adequately cover this within your application. So
those are really great features, Emily. And I noticed in what you were sharing, that is not just like boilerplate Cypress commands. It looked like it was leveraging even possibly custom commands and patterns inside of the other test in that test suite. Can you confirm that?
Yep. It's using your existing kind of test suite that's available within the cloud that you've recorded, and using that as a base point for generating the starting point within your test. So if you're using custom commands or you're using certain sort of syntax, it's going to kind of pick up on that and pull that through and put that into the recommendation. So
I love that piece of it. One thing that always comes up with as a question when AI is involved is what happens to my data. So, can you clarify how Cypress handles the data used with these AI features?
Yeah, for sure. So first off, Cypress is not training any models, so we are using, available models out there. That's all within SOC 2 compliance. When it comes to data specifically, we have access to the data that's been recorded to the cloud, so it's going to follow the same. Uh, what would you call it? The same. No, I'm tripping on my words. Um, da, da, da. Same. It's going to have no additional concerns around PHI, so the personal identifying like information, because you've already, as a customer, handled stripping that out, and when you've recorded that to the cloud and anything else in that context. In terms of anything regarding AI, you of course want to be very careful about what you share, and so. That's just a reminder to make sure that you are checking what you're sending to the cloud. But in terms of that, like nothing is special there in terms of concerns. Customer data is not shared between customers, and all data is session bound. So what that means is that once you have maybe leveraged an AI capability, like that's it. That information is not just available for training data in the future for these external models that we're using. We're not using it to train the data, so there's nothing particular there that would be that should be concerning. But of course, if there are questions or concerns, like we would welcome that feedback to address that. And we do have more information on our security page to go and do a further review in depth. So.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And I really want to kind of confirm my understanding here, because what I hear you saying is that if I am interested in maybe trying some AI features, I can do that with my existing test suite. What already I am recording to the cloud and sending over to the Cypress cloud, I can use that same information to see these test intent summaries, or to if utilizing UI coverage to generate tests that could be put back into my code base. Is that correct?
Yep, absolutely. So all that information that you record up, you'll have available to use in the AI summaries, but in terms of kind of security concerns, there should be nothing super net new. So.
That's good to hear. I want to go into some talking about what's coming up next. So, you've mentioned for us test intent summaries. We've talked about test generation and UI coverage, but I'd like to hear about what other AI capabilities we can expect coming from the Cypress team this year.
Yeah, so one of the features that will be coming sooner than later would actually be an extension of our test intent summaries. I mentioned, you get in here and like, where's the value at? And the very first step when you're reviewing test is what is it doing? But then, especially when you start looking at like a debug workflow from like a failed test, like what happened? And like, what does that even mean? And so one of the capabilities we are working currently on implementing is providing more context around the error that occurred. So right now you have stack traces and you have the error message, but sometimes it's not overly clear, like maybe the error message is clear of like, okay, like I expected 3 elements on the page and I got 10. Okay, but like what led up to that, right? Like did you interact with like a filter and the filter did not update as expected, right? So some of the things we are exploring and hoping to push out very soon is providing better context into what led up to that error, so you understand exactly what your test was supposed to do, and then what led to that error, and then from there the hope is that we will better position you to be able to understand and like quickly streamline and debug the tests that you have. Fix your test, whether it's the flake, whether it's the failure. So in this context, it's specifically going to be around failures, but I do think it's going to potentially open up some opportunities for further exploration in this area, which is exciting. So.
Yeah, I like
it. And then the other really large piece that we're getting pretty excited for is it was mentioned earlier this year is we are working on our studio experience. We are revamping that, building that in the app. And that is specifically around enhancing the test authoring experience. So this would be essentially an extension and a continuation of the UI coverage test generation. UI coverage test generation, UI coverage helps you identify the gaps in your coverage, where you need to add your tests. How do you set yourself up for success to, address those concerns? But, at that point, you have a test starting point. But then what do you do as a user? What you do is you need to actually go author that test. So you can copy that down, take it to your local Cypress app, open it up in open mode, and you could paste that in there, you can run it. And what Studio allows you to do is actually engage with your application under test and drive that forward through user interactions. And so you can click through, you can add manual assertions, and what we're going to do with the AI side there is we are going to provide smart recommendations around what to assert as your application is changing out from underneath of you. So we are actively building that, and it should help streamline that authoring experience. So maybe you can focus a little bit more on driving your application forward, and then you could take those recommendations, you can understand and decide for yourself if that's valuable, and you can add those in to kind of pinpoint and focus in on like what's actually changing and not maybe like duplicating kind of the is visible and this and that, and kind of streamline that. So pretty excited about that one coming.
I love hearing about these new features. And one thing that has really caught my attention, especially with the intent summaries and the error context that you're talking about, is how helpful it will be for teams that are, expanding. They're onboarding folks into their team. You need to get used to potentially multiple test suites. Having those as a way of just helping you get up to speed and effective in a code base, I think is going to be really amazing. The interactivity of Studio AI, I know we've shown that before, but I just want to talk how amazing that this is going to be, as someone who really loves to find ways to kind of cut out the boilerplate or get past like the routine task. That is something that really appeals to me because I want to be able to get into, I guess what I would call the fun stuff of figuring out like the niche commands for a given test. So both of those, I think are going to be great additions. I would be remiss, of course, if I did not highlight something that Cypress founder Brian Mann actually introduced at Front End Nation recently, which was Cyprompt. And at the time, I shared on LinkedIn that I thought this was likely our boldest experiment yet. And I really stand by that statement. I am super excited about Cyprompt. And, I know not everyone has had the opportunity to see that talk. So if you wouldn't mind taking a minute, Emily, and just kind of, for the folks that weren't able to be at Front End Nation, could you give us the context about what Cyprompt is?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm gonna screen share you to our recent blog post. Jennifer is, I guess she is our co-founder here at Cypress, and she is actually leading this in conjunction with our founder Brian Mann. So Cyprompt is very exciting in the sense that it is going to pair test authoring with kind of prompting and allow you to kind of define what you are expecting to happen without having to be as specific as, writing each command like directly like you would with the traditional Cypress test. So you can say, hey, go to this page and I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. And you give it kind of the steps that you would expect, almost like the requirements that you would kind of see and expect to come from that. And Cyprompt will build out what should happen. And so it is going to run, here's a little bit of a, let me see if I can zoom in this, a little bit of like a visual of like what you can expect. So in this example, it's saying visit the aerotravel.com, type in Paris on where you want to go, click on the first result, pick on the days, and it kind of builds that out. And so what it does is it's going to allow you to be a bit more flexible on how you describe what you're expecting. So then you can kind of naturally build this out. So there's a few things that come with this. One, just readability of what's happening, as well as opening up opportunities for maybe less technical users to start authoring these test experiences. Additionally, you could use this in CI, like continue to leave this as Cyprompt. And what it will introduce is the ability to essentially offer self-healing. So if something kind of changed over time, we will adjust and correct that to hopefully pass unless something needs to be modified, right? And so it gives you those opportunities there. And of course, if you just wanted this to help set you up, there is an opportunity to kind of eject what was produced from the code, and then you can continue to own and manage your test as you would like a traditional Cypress test. So you would be set up with like a standard Cypress test code, that you would see with the sci visit and everything else, and you wouldn't have to leave it in this format. But we're pretty excited about this. It's been very successful with what we've seen so far. So hopefully when we get to the point of sharing this experience with everyone else, everyone feels the same. So yeah.
Very excited to see this coming. And one thing that this makes me think of is since joining Cypress, there have been two main mission sentiments I feel like have always been at the forefront for our team. And those are making testing less painful and getting more out of the test you've already written. These AI features that we're talking about really seem to follow those mission statements. And I'd love to hear, your take on how you think these AI features, both the ones that have already been released and the ones you've talked about as coming, how do those further those missions of making tests less painful and getting more out of your current test?
Right. I mean, if you just look at Cypress's whole intention as a company, like why Cypress was built and like what the mission is, it's creating an easy experience to write tests that are reliable, that are always like passing, so that you can have confidence in what you're building and delivering, right? And so the AI capabilities 100% are built in mind to solve the problems that people face that are challenging with maintaining and building those types of test suites, right? Testing is so critical to ensure that what you ship to your customers are actually going to do what they're supposed to do. And so everything we're building is definitely with that in mind. And we're trying to diversify our offerings in a way that furthers that experience while also not like over indexing on one particular piece. So, the test intent summaries, that's not necessarily around authoring net new code. That's helping you understand what you've already have going on, or maybe new tests as they're added, they'll help other users understand what those things are meant to be doing. But then you also have like Cyprompt, which is going to help you, with the maintainability as well as like driving the new test creation, as well as, all the other things kind of coming in the future of like, how do you, understand what you have going for yourself. So, very, very much so on the forefront of what we're aiming to deliver. So.
And all of these features, I feel like, position folks who are responsible for maintaining test suites in a more proactive state. It is great to understand the flakiness of your test. It is essential to understand what is passing, what is failing, where is it failing. It is essential to understand the history of your test suite. But all of those are reactions. And all of these features, I feel like, help move us in that preventative state, and, kind of help us, weigh both sides of the fence, right? We have to react when things fail, but as much as possible, we want to get into that preventative state so we never see them fail in the first place. I really appreciate everything you've told us about what Cypress has been up to, Emily. But I want to hear your take on AI, because you are someone who works very closely in the testing space and very closely in utilizing AI and building out AI features. So I would love to hear from you, like, personally, what are you most curious or hopeful about for AI coming into the testing space, as it is, currently very prevalent in the community?
Yeah, so many different perspectives on why people are interested in AI. Some people are, we know we have gaps in our test suite, like how can we fill those? Some people are, I have problems with my test suite and it makes me just want to like not test at all. There's so many different things. And so for me personally, I'm very, very interested on the maintainability side of testing. My background before moving into the product space was engineering. So I wrote lots and lots and lots of tests, and I've always been a strong advocate for adequate coverage. The one or two times that I was like, this was probably good enough, like something has happened, and like I like to have a high confidence in what I've built and what I've shipped. And I don't know anyone that doesn't want that, I guess. And so maybe I'm wrong there, but when you start adding in those test suites, how do those scale up and how do those manage, and how can you maintain that over time? And that's really important to me. So if they're correct from the get-go, that's amazing. It's almost like a set and forget. And then if something updates, you're always like, oh no, what happened? And you're like, oh, something changed. Of course, it makes total sense. But something unexpectedly happens, or you've got the flake going on, or maybe you're not super familiar with an area within the code base that changed, and those failures start popping up. How do I quickly navigate those? Because as important as testing is, it's like the thing that you want to spend the least amount of time on, because building is the fun part, and like that's the gratifying part, and the testing is the confidence part, right? And so whatever we can do to streamline that sort of workflow and help teams move quickly and help teams ship with confidence, like that's what I'm super interested in.
Yeah, I love to hear that. I think probably the thing that I'm most excited about, and people have heard me talk about a number of times, is test democratization. It is really interesting to me, and especially in terms of like the shift left methodology of how can people who have traditionally not been involved in the testing process become more ingrained. Again, kind of staying on my soapbox about keeping in as much as possible a preventative state. I think that hopefully that is an area that AI leads us to. I know with Cyprompt, and also with what we're seeing in TestGen for UI coverage, both of those I feel like help really move us into that more democratized state. So that's really interesting to me. Okay, well,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, I totally agree with you in that context. I think one hurdle sometimes you see with testing too is maybe there's a specific team, or like the engineers are authoring those tests or whatnot. But there are so many people involved with building an application that maybe don't have as strong of a technical background, or maybe they need to jump in and contribute. And so hopefully these open up those opportunities.
Definitely. We are getting close to the end of our bug bash time, friends. So I would love to do a little bit of Q&A here. I'm going to pop open the chat. For those of you joining us live, we would love to hear your questions for Emily. Now, I know there are a ton of things that we could talk about in the Cypress ecosystem, but we'd really like to keep the discussion focused in on what we've been chatting about so far today. If you have those Cypress implementation questions, for example, my test is broken, I'm getting X error message, how can I resolve that? Then I want to direct you over to the area of our Discord where you can go and get help. Or, if you're a cloud customer, reach out to your TAM or your AE. If you are looking for more roadmap type questions, those can go over in the general chat. Again, post it there. We have plenty of folks in here that are working to get those questions answered all the time. And in terms of what we're talking about today, just remember that we want to keep you all involved in this build process and what we have coming down the line. We will be sharing exact release dates and implementation details a little further down the line, specifically about Cyprompt. So keep that in mind. But any questions you have for Emily, drop those in the chat for me. And Emily, while I give folks time to type out their question, I have a question for you. And it's one that's kind of become a tradition at this point. I like to hear for everybody who joins us, what do you think is the most underused Cypress command?
Oh boy. Underused Cypress command. Oh boy, I don't even know if I have an opinion on that. I don't know. I'm a fan of the within command. I don't know if it's underused or not, but it really lets you kind of target in and scope the focus of where your test is kind of looking at instead of like focusing in on your whole application. But I don't know if it's underused by any means. I don't know. What have you heard in the past?
There was actually a recent article by a member of our Cypernauts community, Sebastian, who talked about Contains as one, not that was underused, but maybe overused in the wrong way. So if you haven't seen that post from Sebastian, it's really great as far as like different ways to utilize the contains command. So it's shared over on our LinkedIn. So if you haven't seen that, I definitely encourage folks to go read that blog post. I do have a question in chat though. Some of these features that we've talked about are already released. So let's focus in there. We have a question about how many of those features are enterprise only. So talking about UI Cov test generation and talking about the test intent summaries, those things that are out there now. What of those, if any, are the enterprise level only?
Sure. So the test intent summaries, they're available for all cloud plans, including the free tier. So if you have a free account and you've gone and you've recorded and you go in and look, those will be available for you to review. The UI coverage test generation, those are not necessarily limited to an enterprise plan, but whether or not you've purchased UI coverage. So UI coverage can be purchased on plans other than the enterprise tier. So that would just kind of come from that. So if you haven't done a trial, you're able to do a trial and you would have access to that and you can kind of get the full experience. So
excellent.
Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, and I think that's all the questions that we have in chat right now. So for folks who are joining us, it is time for us to wrap up and say goodbye. We appreciate everyone joining. As we are heading out though, I do want to drop a quick link in chat for you all. If you are interested in signing up for early access to Cyprompt, then I have a place for you to go. Go ahead and click that link in chat. It will take you to that sign up form that's going to keep you informed on all of the advancements of Cyprompt. And as you are over on our website, go ahead and check out that blog post that Emily shared. I'll drop that link here in chat in just a moment. Gives a lot of great detail on Cyprompt, and it's also the place you can sign up for that 2-week free trial. If you want to make use of these AI features, especially test intent summaries, go out, check it out. We'd love for you to use it and tell us your feedback. So that is all for us today, folks. Thank you for joining joining us. You will see us back, not next Tuesday, the Tuesday after. We will be back with another session of this live series, the Bug Bash. And until then, we hope you all have happy testing. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you. Bye.